You're listening to the Real Estate Runway podcast, powered by QUATTRO Capital, where we are all about alternative business and investment strategies to help you amplify life and maximize wealth. Here's your host, the recovering engineer turned multifamily investor, Chad Sutton.
All right, Real Estate Runway family. Today we're going to talk about land flipping with my friend Pete Reese. So super smart guy who has, he's been through the real estate crash of 2008. I love bringing on people who've been through crashes if you're not picking up a theme here. But anyway, he's going to go through the ins and outs of how to build a successful land flipping business and why consistency is the most important thing. Now, before we get into the episode, if you get any enjoyment out of this show, I would love if you would leave a 5-star review and thoughtful comment. That's the only way to grow the show, and it really, really helps us out. If you want to follow us on social media, hit us at Team Quattro Capital, no spaces or special characters. Sorry, doing this on the fly. At Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn, as well as thequattroway.com if you want to visit us there. If you want to apply to be on the show, we always love having guests on. thequattroway.com/podcast is the best way to do that. And if you want to reach out to us, request an episode topic or anything of the sort, just say hi. Podcast at thequattroway.com is the best way to do that. So now on to your scheduled production. All right. Welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Runway podcast. I'm your host, your fearless leader, Chad Sutton. We are powered by QUATTRO Capital here on this show. Help me welcome my friend Pete Reese, who is the President of Reelvest Properties. Pete, welcome to the show. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Chad.
Pete's laughing a little bit because we podcasters get to joke back and forth. I'll do something like annoying and like, we'll just have a pause for about 4 or 5 seconds, knowing my editors will catch it. And Pete's just sitting there waiting on me to finish introducing him. So anyway, podcast tricks you guys never see. Or if you did see that, I need to fire my editor. Please leave it in a comment and I will catch it that way. So Pete, man, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on today. We're going to get into a pretty exciting episode about land development. I'm so excited to talk with you about this because not a lot of people understand this. But first, I really want to hear more about you, how you came up in the real estate world, and maybe just some of your experiences that got you into land development and made you into the Pete Reese we see today.
All right. Well, my journey kind of started like a lot of other people when my wife and we bought our first home, and that was in San Diego in the year 2000 actually, and it was just a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,700 square foot home, $195,000 at the time. I'm sure it's worth a lot more right now, but we held it for about 2 years, did some minor improvements on it, and kind of sold it for $50,000 profit. And I thought I was a real estate mogul at the time. We rolled that into another property, did the same thing, fix it up. Then we started actually getting into flipping homes ourselves. So we did that for a number of years until the market crashed in 2007-ish. And just before that, I'd actually gotten my broker's license pretty much just to get better access to the deals. Like I was buying all my deals on the MLS, and it allowed me to kind of show properties to myself and also get that buy side commission. So that's why I got it. But it came in handy when the market crashed because it gave me sort of an opportunity to earn money when other people in real estate weren't. And I kind of just focused on selling bank-owned properties, so listing properties for the banks. That was my whole focus for a number of years. And it was really busy and really crazy time, something I wouldn't want to revisit, but I was thankful to have the business at the time. So, and then after that, I kind of transitioned into just finding deals for other large investment companies. For a number of years there, that was my whole focus. I knew what they wanted. I kind of knew how to get the deals for them because I was coming from the REO listing side of things. And it was a good match. And we did a lot of deals like that together with these larger companies. Got out of real estate investing altogether for a number of years. Worked on a business with my wife about blogging and travel blogging and training other bloggers how to do that. So that was a number of years of our life. Got the itch to get back into real estate and real estate investing specifically, and sort of stumbled into some people talking about land flipping. And it was interesting to me because I would see people say, comment about like, hey, I bought this property for $10,000 and I sold it for $30,000. And, I only held it for 60 days, something like that. And I thought, well, that's pretty cool. I'd like to be able to get those kind of returns, triple my money in 60 days. So I really dug into it, learned everything I could about the model. And then in 2021, March of 2021, we resold our first property using that model. And we closed out 2021 doing about 1.2 million in revenue and about 50% gross profit. So on average, we were able to pretty much double everything we bought. So we buy a property for 20,000. On average, we were able to net 40,000 when all was said and done. And then 2022 stepped it up a big notch and did 3.5 million in revenue and just shy of that 50% gross profit margin, but still did really, really pretty well. And 2023 looking to do 10 million. So that's how I ended up here.
Yeah, pretty impressive, man. Thanks for that background. And I got to give a little bit of a hat tip to anyone who survived the great financial crisis in real estate, in one way or another. So many lessons came out of there. If you don't mind, I got to go off script for a minute. What's one lesson that you learned? Just one big lesson. If you can make one takeaway of something you might have done differently had you known the experience of 2007 through 11 was coming,
Right.
anything you might have changed.
Yeah, well, I did the exact opposite thing that you should do. I got out of investing, and that's when I should have gone, doubled down on the investing side and accumulated properties at that point. But,
Yeah.
I was new to a market crash and it seemed kind of unprecedented. And I kind of knew in the back, I honestly did know that this was a low and it was always going to go
Yeah.
up from there. But there wasn't much capital around. There wasn't, there weren't a lot of people ready to throw their money into real estate. So, that, I kind of backed away from investing myself at the time when I should have doubled down more, but, live and learn.
Woulda, coulda, shoulda, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, let's turn it over a little bit and let's go, let's talk a little bit about, land development. What is it? How are you making money in it? And what is, I guess, what's the overall process you follow? Just educate us a little bit,
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much my model is a lot different than some other people do it. There's a lot of ways to invest in land, and there's land development, land flipping. I'm mostly the flipping side of things. So pretty much we buy properties off market. We generate all of our deals with direct mail. We send out
Really?
an offer. Yeah. We send out offers to landowners, and then they respond to those offers and we work out a deal. We buy the properties cash. We close through a title company or attorney, whatever that state requires. And then we sometimes do some minor improvements, some minor development stuff to them. It could be stuff like getting it surveyed. It could be getting some paths cleared on the property. It could be getting a perk test done, something pretty minor generally that's quick to do some minor value add. And then we put it on the market right away with a local land broker, and resell it as quickly as possible. So on average, our hold time is only about 60 days. And
Wow.
that's the whole holding time. And that's the kind of the resale contract time period as well. So if that takes 30 days, the resale contract, and then the marketing period might be 30 days, but total hold time about 60 days altogether on average.
Yeah. So who is your ideal customer avatar as far as who you're selling it to? And on the flip side of that, who are you trying to market to find these landowners? Are they specific people in specific situations, or just anyone who owns land to their name?
To take your second question first, I kind of do a shotgun approach. Really, we're not filtering out a lot of potential property owners aside from the obvious ones that are not going to sell. Like, we are not mailing to like the railroad or a city
Yeah.
or county or someone like that that's just not going to look at my offer and just kind of throw it in the trash. But so we do a pretty big broad list. We narrow it down by acreage ranges, really, in a particular area. Say we take a particular county, 10 acres plus, all vacant land, 10 acres plus. We scrub out those non-obvious sellers and send it out and see what happens. Then we get a bunch of leads back, and sometimes we can work out deals. Some of the responses are anything from, "Hey, I'm angry at you because you offered me too low on my land," to like, "Hey, I'm interested in selling, but you're a little too low," or "I'm interested in selling for the price that you offered." So it really just kind of depends. And when they respond, then we get into the details and really see what we can do on that particular property. And the first question, I can't remember exactly what that was, but I'd be happy to answer it.
Yeah, no, so we went second first, which was, what's your avatar you're marketing to,
Oh, yes.
and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
I guess, you said you're flipping the land, so you're not
Mm.
necessarily going in and developing it. So maybe, I don't know, is a developer your customer you're selling to, or who are you selling to?
No, most of these properties are what I would classify as kind of rural recreational properties in most
Mhm.
cases. So they may be recreational, but they also may be a potential home site.
Mhm.
Generally 5 to 10 acres plus is what we're dealing in. So these are areas kind of outside the cities or the towns. They're
Yeah.
kind of on the outskirts of these areas. And the most typical buyer is someone that's kind of looking at it for recreational purposes or potentially building something on the property or maybe buying it for recreation with the thought of building on it down the road. But, it's there are particular properties that come up from time to time that are, development properties. And then we take some of the steps towards that direction and then market it with a commercial broker. But most of them are on the residential side of things.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess as far as the business plan, you're holding it for a very short time. You're acquiring small parcels of land from individuals and likely selling them to a recreational owner. So what sort of rules or standards do you have around, hey, here's the max that I'll offer to the individual that I'm buying it from, and how are you kind of capturing what you can sell it for and keeping that spread, you know?
Yeah, we're just always looking at the comps, and we are kind of looping in a local land broker in that process as well, kind of getting their opinion of what they think they could resell it for. We try to establish relationships in a particular area with kind of the best land brokers in a particular area, and they help us out kind of on the valuation side of things, and then we give them the listing when after we close on the property, so they can sell it for us. But,
Yeah.
we're just looking to I mean, our kind of rule of thumb is we're trying to double our money on each deal. So
Mhm.
that kind of, we just back off what our, resale expenses are going to be and any expenses we're going to have with the property. And then that becomes sort of, that 50% mark is kind of where our max offer is going to be.
Yeah.
And yeah, so we just look at it from those lenses. Sometimes we'll push it a little further than that. It just kind of depends on the area and if we know things sell quickly in that area or what kind of comfort we have with the property. If it's a really premium property and we know it's going to sell, no problem. Then we'll step up our price a little bit as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. And doubling your money in 60 days is not a bad strategy there, right? So
Right.
so on I
It
mean
accelerates very quickly.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So on average, I mean you mentioned you're buying, 5, 10 acre parcels maybe. I mean, give me like an average, acquisition price that just trying to understand the scale of investing we're talking
Yeah,
about
yeah.
here.
So it's 5 to 10 acres kind of on the minimum. That's kind of like the minimum size, and it goes up from
Okay.
there. But I'd say the range that we're kind of working in most of the properties is $20,000 purchase price all the way up to maybe on average, 150 grand, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
We also do some bigger ones, some outliers that are bigger than that or even smaller than that sometimes, but that's kind of the general area.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Well, cool. So, you know, let's talk a little bit about some of the skills you have to build and run a business like this, right? So, there's a concept of marketing and a concept of diligence that goes into this. So, let's talk a little bit about some of the systems you may have had to put in place. It sounds like you've got quite the machine at this point that's churning. So you're not just doing this, one at a time. Let's talk
Right.
about that a little bit, Pete.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. There's a whole process built up and this is kind of developed over time. It didn't start this way. I mean, it was just me and an assistant at the beginning. I was doing pretty much everything and then the assistant was kind of helping me with some of those, assistant type tasks, I guess. But over time, I've gradually built a really decent sized team to kind of deal with all the lead flow and pretty much take care of every step of the process. At this point, I'm pretty much just kind of evaluating deals, deciding what to go forward with,
Yeah.
and problem solving certain issues that come up. But at this point, I've got a lead manager that inputs all the leads. Well, first of all, we've got a call center that actually takes all the calls and they're 24/7. So that's an outside service that we use. And then so they'll answer the phone at any time. I've got a lead manager then inputs all that stuff into our CRM business system. And then I've got another person on my team, which is the acquisition manager. They're responsible for making, all the communication with the property owners. And then I've got a property analyst as well that evaluates all these properties and determines what it's worth and what our maximum offer should be. Also, they review all the due diligence when that comes back and look at the title reports and everything in depth. Then I've got another team member, which is the transaction manager, and she handles all the buy side and all the resale side transactions. I just got a asset manager on board as well, and her role is to kind of coordinate all the value add type stuff that we do to these properties, and also coordinate all the listings with the listing brokers that we use. Got another kind of general assistant on the team, and then an executive assistant. So all these people kind of are working together as one big team, and we've got more capacity. So I'm kind of building the team for where I want to go, not exactly where we're at right now. So we send out about 50,000 letters per month at this point, and probably going to really crank that up this year.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible. Wow. So I got to imagine, I mean, it's not a super common mode of real estate investment. So I got to think your competition is pretty low, right? So,
Right.
so I mean, do you run into a lot of other people doing this in the space, or is this kind of a niche you're developed here?
It's a niche, but there are other, competing land investors out there. The popular areas, that we mail to, I hear stories of, people getting, letters from other land investors and things like that. So I know that there's other competitors out there, but the numbers work for me with the mail. Each deal pretty much when I evaluate the cost of our mail and how much it costs us per deal, costs us about $3,000 per deal in mail. And average deal we're making 22,000 is what our average was for all of last year. So
Yeah,
the numbers make
incredible.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it makes sense. And that's the game with direct mail, right? You have to have
Yep.
some sort of a loss ratio, and you're only going to get what I think at the multifamily level it was like a 1% response rate. I'm sure it's
Hmm.
better at your level, but pretty wild.
Well, I don't even really track the response rate because it varies a lot. Now, if I put like a really high percentage offer price on these things, then I'm going to get a huge response rate. But they're not going to be very good leads. So that can be kind of
Yeah.
toyed with some way. So that's why I kind of just try not to get stuck in the weeds too much with that. I just
Yeah.
look at kind of the cost per deal. And I think that's like the important metric for me to really keep an eye on.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, Pete, the audience here is used to me talking about, commercial cash flowing assets and large things here. So I'm not exactly an expert in this space. I'm going to go ahead and admit that. Is there anything I'm not asking you that I should be about, interesting or strategy aspects of the land flipping business?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's a couple ways that people are involved in this land flipping business. First of all, there's a number of different ways to do it. I mean, there are investors that will buy properties and then just sell them owner financing, and then they basically use them as income properties. So they buy these properties at a discount off market like I'm doing, but instead of cashing out like I do, they hold the properties and sell the properties using owner financing, and then carry the note like that. So that's a whole different aspect, a way to do land investing. The other thing that happens sometimes is that, and we did this on a couple of the larger properties we did, and one of the properties was 656 acres. So we got a really good deal on it, got it under contract. The purchase price was 315,000, which is a little more than I wanted to dedicate towards one deal, but there are some people in the out there that are partners, willing to partner with you. So in that situation, in this business, kind of what that means is the partner puts up the money, you bring the deal, and then, as the investor, you kind of make sure that gets sold, and babysit it through that whole process. And then at the end, then you split the profits. So in that
Yeah.
particular case, the one with the $315,000 purchase, it was really a win-win. We bought it for 315. He sent the money to close it in escrow. The property goes in his name and everything, but we have an agreement that when it sells, we split the profits. And then we sold it for, I think, 595, and each walked away with 108,000 or something like that after all commissions. So it
Yeah.
was great for me because I didn't put up any money, just the money to get the deal. And then he got a great return on investment for just putting the money out there, and I did all the stuff.
That's called
So
value creation right there. Your return is
yeah,
infinite. Technically, you spent time, right? But yeah,
yes.
I love that strategy. Love that.
Yeah. So it's good from
Awesome.
both sides. So some people take that perspective, like, or some people decide like, hey, I like this business model. It's obviously very, it's great returns, and they just want to be the money people.
Yeah.
and then share in that profit margin. So
That's exactly it. And a lot of people say it takes money to make money. I say that's false. It takes value to create money. And sometimes
yeah,
bringing the money is the value, but sometimes bringing the vehicle is the value or the
that's
effort
right.
or whatever it is. So, you need both sides of that equation. Fantastic. Well, Pete, before we let you go, thank you for coming on, but we've got to go through a couple of questions, hear more about you. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. First question. What is your superpower in life or business, and how does it serve you well?
My ultimate superpower is consistency. I'm the most consistent person you'll probably ever meet. But the thing about it is, it really helps me in this type of business, especially because it's all about the lead flow,
Yeah.
getting the deals in, the deal flow, I guess you could say. And I know that the way to make that happen is to send out the mail on a consistent basis. So that's why we're like clockwork, 50,000 pieces of mail per month, 25,000 on the first, 25,000 on the 15th. I know that I take the steps to make sure that mail gets out on those dates. Everything else is going to take care of itself. And I think that's a way that a lot of business owners or a lot of other land investors get into problems because they'll send out a big batch of mail. They'll get busy dealing with all the leads, and then they'll realize when it's too late that the phone's not ringing anymore. And then they have to start that whole process over again. So it's this giant roller coaster all the time. I know that that's not the way I want to be. So that's my superpower. I'm kind of that way in every aspect of my life is the consistency. But
That's a
yeah.
powerful one. So let's flip the side. Let's flip to the other side of the coin, Pete. What is your biggest failure in life or
Mm.
business, and what'd you learn from it?
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes maybe being too aggressive on certain deals. Thankfully in this business, I've never lost money on any of these deals. 100 something deals we've done so far. So it's not in this business, but sometimes I'm too aggressive. Like I get an idea and I just like start going in on it, and I waste a bunch of time, and it never turns into something. But I think I've really realized that to rein myself in and to just kind of focus on one particular business model, and everything seems to work out much better that way.
Fantastic. All right. I think the last question that we have here is about your podcast slash website. So you have some free value out there. What is that, and where can we find it?
Yeah, so we just launched a podcast ourselves. It's called Turning Profit, myself and my wife. And we're talking about real estate investing, but with a real focus on land flipping itself, and because that's what we do. But each month, what I do is a monthly income report where I break down the revenue we took in that month, the profit, all the deals that we did that month, like how many pieces of mail we sent out, a lot of different stuff. So each deal we break down like what we bought it for, what we sold it for, how many days we held it for, notes about each one of those properties. So try to give as much transparency as we can into the business. I mean, like when I started, I told a story about how I was reading Facebook post comments about people talking about this property they bought for 10,000 and sold for 30,000. I mean, to me, that sounded cool, but there was no real transparency there. There was no information. I had no idea if it was real or just some guy, trying to brag on the internet. But so that's the reason I'm doing these reports. And I've got kind of just launched a free community, land flipping community as well, where I'm trying to kind of get people together and just learn about land flipping if that's of interest to them. So
Love that. Love that. Value creation. Well, Pete, is that also the best place to get in touch with you? Should our listeners want to reach out, or is there another way?
yeah, yeah. So if you're interested in like partnering on a bigger deal or something like that, definitely reach out to me. If you go to the website turningprofit.com, you'll see a link to my email and stuff like that. So that would be a good way. Also on YouTube, we've got a YouTube channel and obviously all the other social media channels as well. So
Awesome. All right. Well, folks, just like always, scroll down on whatever you're listening to the show on. Those links will be right there in your show notes for your one-click pleasure. Pete, thank you for coming on the show, talking a little bit about land flipping. This is a new concept for our listeners, or for a lot of them rather. So thanks for providing that insight, and love to have you back on the show and hear what 2023 had in store for you.
that sounds great. Look forward to it. Thanks, Chad.
All right, everyone. This has been another episode of the Real Estate Runway podcast. Until next time, over and out. All right, Real Estate Runway family. That was a pretty great episode with Mr. Pete Reese. So I hope you learned a little bit about land flipping today and what it takes to run a business like that, and how consistency is the most important key to a lead generation based business. Now, if you are looking for a partner on a land deal, scroll down, connect with Pete. He's a great resource. He's been doing this for a long time. And if you enjoyed the episode, love it if you'd scroll down and leave us that 5-star review and thoughtful comment while you're at it. Really helps us grow the show. Until next time, this has been another episode of the Real Estate Runway Podcast. Over and out, friends.
We hope this episode was insightful and brought value to your day. If so, please be awesome and leave us a 5-star review. Find out how Team Quattro can help you at thequattroway.com. Until next time, this is the Real Estate Runway Podcast.